You're still watching TVC Breakfast. We're now going into a very important conversation. Now, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amopitan-San, has assured Nigerians that the 2027 election is definitely going to be free and fair. We're definitely going to have a conversation about it on the show this morning. Everyone is looking forward to this particular election. Joining us in the studio for this conversation is a lawyer and a social development advocate, Olutubosun Osifowura. We are also going to have a lawyer. He's going to join us via Zoom. I'm talking about Jide Ologun. So yes, Mr. Jide, can you hear us? Good morning, Mr. Jide Ologun. Okay, we have you via Zoom. Very well. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
All right. We also have Mr. Osifowura here. But let me start with you, Mr. Jide. We're talking about the 2027 elections, and a lot of Nigerians are looking up to this particular elections. They are expecting a free and fair election. We all know that we have Joash Amopitan right now, and he's assuring Nigerians. But the question is it just about talking? Because even during the other times, this is not the first time that INEC is promising a free and fair election. And oftentimes after the election, Nigerians are not okay with it. Oh, what's happening? This has happened, you know, corruption and all of that. But Professor Joash is telling us that right now, a lot of technology is going to be embedded in this particular election. What do you make of this? What do you think is going to be different for 2027, Mr. Jide?
Thank you very much. I think we should start from identifying what a promise is. A promise is an undertaking to carry out a performance or not to carry out the performance. And the INEC chairman has promised now to give us an election in 2027 that is, premised on about 5 pillars, globally set as standard, which means the election should be free, should be fair, it should be credible, it should be transparent and inclusive. So, and he's held by his promise. And he has also promised to make it a tech-driven procedure. Even though we have started that, it's been noticed that that aspect of respecting the will of the people by allowing the tech to have its way has not been on board. So if he now decides to let that happen, it will be commendable. But let me say this. When we talk about INEC, INEC is just one of the institutions in the country giving some assignments. And just like other sectors of our economy, the institution dates back to even before our independence of October 1, 1960, because the body was first established in 1959, to conduct the elections that brought about the Nigerian independence of 1960. Then it was succeeded thereafter by the Federal Electoral Commission that was established in 1960. And you recall that as far back as 1962, we've been having, between then and 1966, when the Civil War, the coup took place and Civil War started, we've been having electoral practices and fracas in the country. So I think the main assignment for the chairman, San Amopitan, is to, go and concretize how to manage politicians. Already 2027 is not here. We can witness what is going on in Rivers State. And so will the will of the people prevail? And that is the main question, because when you talk of INEC as nomenclature, INEC came on board just in 1998, to handle the affairs of this Fourth Republic. But like I said, those pillars of acceptable elections globally must be allowed. And he has promised also that on legal compliance, that under his leadership, the rule of law is not a suggestion, it's an operating system. So I look forward to a season when those who flout the laws of the land, elections, will be held accountable. Right now, as we speak, there have been complaints as against the provisions of Section 94 of the Electoral Act as amended. Exactly. That some have started campaigns. So if we don't allow the rule of law, we may make all the promises and not be able to, fulfill the promises. But I wish him the best. I look forward to a season of credibility
Yeah.
in the country.
Exactly. So show me.
Yeah. Mr. Logun.
No, let's start with, we have Mr. Sifora here. I'm sure he has a lot to share with us as well. Please direct your question to him.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Shifora, good morning. Yeah, in the light of the concerns of many members of the public, particularly the youths, they are so forceful on the need to ensure that results are transmitted electronically right from the polling unit. And then, how do you see INEC being able to overcome challenges, particularly in the rural areas, bearing in mind that many of the youths are focusing, or they are based in the urban centers, and they're only providing solutions, to what they think are the needs of the urban centers compared to riverine areas and so many rural areas. So how do we bridge this gap in a way to meet public expectation from the youth, while at the same time ensuring that INEC is able to ensure that results are transmitted fairly?
Well, contrary to your assertion, there are a lot of youths also in the riverine areas as well. I mean, if you see, most times when you see restiveness, it's always done by the youth in those places. There are quite a number of them. We always assume that the youth are always in the
cities,
urban centers and all that. But they also have their expectations as well. And then we've evolved over time. And you'll be shocked that the expectation is just as much as those you find in the urban centers. I'm trying to say that it's a general thing. Like every young person is actually looking forward to a credible electoral system. They've read, they've heard how it's done in the past. Mr. Ologun alluded to the fact that we've had all kinds of malpractices over time, as far back as the 60s up until almost recently. And then, the last election, the young people, a lot of young people actually came out. They had certain candidates they wanted to vote for. And one thing that fell short of their expectation was the fact that INEC said they were going to see the result in real time. When that did happen, they just switched off. And a lot of them were casting aspersions on INEC. Some just felt it was completely out of what they wanted to see, and they shut down. And I can tell you for free, a lot of them said they were not going to come out for subsequent elections. But I think it depends on how the thing pans out. That's why INEC has decided to reassure and reinforce the fact that, this is going to be technologically driven, one, and then also we will take care of the youth. INEC is obvious. INEC is not oblivious of the fact that the youth are very much interested in rulership, in who becomes their leader. Back in the day, they never used to. Young people don't participate. You see a lot of them on election day playing ball, doing all sorts of things except going to vote. But now the consciousness is there. And then you see, you don't have to water down or play down their expectations with what we used to have in the past. I think that's what the INEC chair is trying to do. And now, even in the riverine area that Mr. Shomi mentioned, people are now technologically inclined. The average person has got a phone, a smartphone, and then they monitor all those things. They want to know, they want to see. That's why I said that for all you care, they are much as interested in the riverine, in the rural areas, as much as they are in the urban centers. So that's why INEC has taken it upon itself to reassure and reinforce the fact that, this will be credible, the youth are taken into cognizance, and then this will be technologically driven. So we can see it, you can monitor it, and then you can say this is it. So unlike the last time, and then you see, let me hold a little brief for INEC.
Okay.
I always say this everywhere I go, the biggest room in the world is a room for improvement. You learn from your past mistakes, you come back and correct it. What will be sad is if INEC repeats the same mistake of 2023, then you can rest assured that they will lose all credibility or every measure of hope that the average person has in INEC. Now, but if they come up with something better, there will be flaws. There will be flaws. It's human driven. So there will be flaws, but what people want to see is an improvement from what we had in the last electoral cycle?
Like you said, Mr. Oshiforo, this reassurance by INEC, by the INEC chair, is a very, very welcome development. However, this is not the first time that INEC has promised us transparent and tech-driven elections. Yeah. You know, we had the card readers back in 2015, I believe. Then we had the Vows mechanism in 2023, I think. And so it's very interesting to see. This is not the first time they've promised us that. So, but historically, and based on your knowledge and your understanding, what gap exists between these tech-driven promises and real-life voter experience and real-time voter experience? And how can we close that gap so these promises don't fall short in 2027 as they have in the past? Also, you spoke about, you know, the youth's belief in the ballot. There's a belief in the ballot that is actually dying. Do you think tech will be the thing to revive that belief in the ballot? Because some might argue that will tech actually give us transparent elections, or will it just change where election disputes happen? Will it change the manner in which they happen?
Okay, now one of the things that tech affords you is speed. Speed, and then you can see things in real time. You know, we were used to, I'm a 70s child, so, and I followed elections. My parents were active, and then I'm a student of politics. I've studied this in over time. One of the things you find out is that when you vote, between the point, Mr. Show is already laughing, between the point where you cast your vote and the collation center, a lot of magic happens. Now, but you see, one of the things that technology brings is that everybody can see. Between that point, the magic that happens changes everything. Now, so, but you see, tech brings in a lot of dynamism into this. If we're voted here, and I'll tell you something, one person you have to give some accolade in this regard is actually the president. If you remember the 2007 election, the one that brought in Lagos, that was the first semblance of bringing in a little bit of technology into it, because you know what happened back then, the whole PDP and AD issue. The president then, who was in charge of Lagos, got in people, and they were, then it was just the normal phone we used to have. Then they were collating and sending by text message so as to make sure that whatever we got at the polling unit tallies with what we have at the collation center. But that was then. Now things have improved. Now, so like I said, tech brings speed. Tech also brings awareness to every person. Then tech brings in massive participation. You can see it, I can see it, my phone is with me. I don't have to start asking. You know, sometimes you used to wait till night to know what happened at the collation center. Then you hear conflicting things. In between, a lot of things had gone down. Now, but with tech, you have a different thing. That's why INEC is going
let's quickly go to Mr. Jide. Mr. Jide, I hope you don't feel too far away from us. I hope you're still with us. Okay. So we're having this conversation, and I'm sure you've heard Mr. Oshiforo as well. But I want to speak about election fraud, you know, what happens during that time. And I want to go very grassroots, you know, with this, my question. We've prayed and we hope that, you know, Professor Josh Amopita will bring a change for us to see a credible election. But what are we doing about the electoral fraud that we see? Because oftentimes, you know, we see fights during the election. We hear that, oh, this person underbagged, some money was passing under and all of that. These are conversations that we hear. You know, what do you think we can do to make this one different? Because trust me, this 2027 election is not going to be a joke. I say it's going to be a movie. And Nigerians are really hoping to see what happens. Nigerians are hoping to see if INEC will actually give a credible election. Oftentimes, I was speaking to someone who said, if 2027 is not credible, you know, they will remove credibility of INEC. And we know that INEC has been criticized a whole lot as well. So, Mr. Jide, what can we do differently, especially speaking about electoral fraud that we see during the election and also the violence? Because it's that violence that makes people afraid. You see parents telling their children, oh, don't go out and vote, they might fight. What education are we putting to people that you can go out and vote peacefully and that your vote will actually count?
Thank you very much. I've described INEC as one of the institutions in the country, and you cannot isolate INEC from the macro environment. So do we have a corruption-free environment right now? The answer is no. The freest election in Nigeria was that of MKO Abiola in 1993, option A4, conducted by Professor Nwosu. which was acclaimed to be free, transparent, credible by the whole world. But what happened? The government of the day then annulled that election. So to what extent is INEC independent? That's a big question. But now, coming to leadership, Professor Joash Amopiton, I profiled him. He's well experienced, sound pedigree. In fact, his name, the surname Amopiton, means that there is a story to be told about this man, you know. And I hope that by the time he is leaving as INEC chairman, the story to be recorded about him will be glorious. And his first name, Joash. Joash in the Bible, in the Hebrew, means the fire of God.
Do you think these names will help us? These names with the Bible and everything. Mr. Jide, are we going biblical with elections now?
About leadership now. The country was to risk everything to conduct himself as the umpire in 1993. And you know how the government dealt with this man. So there are still men around who will stand their ground and say, let me do my job or step aside. But having said all this, the assignment for INEC is far beyond just managing elections. There are about 8 basic functions. INEC is to conduct, organize, undertake, and supervise all elections, at the specified levels, apart from the local government elections that the states manage. INEC is to register political parties. INEC is to monitor the organization and operation of political parties, including their finances, conventions, congresses, and party primaries. So you now begin to check the need for transparency, for fairness. Can we claim that the primaries of some political parties are clean, transparent, and fair, and that there is no vote buying and vote purchasing and things like that?
Yeah.
Arrange for annual examination and auditing, of the funds and accounts of political parties. So how many of these political parties' accounts have been audited and published? Because that's what the law says. You publish this examination for public information. I'm talking about transparency now.
Yeah.
Arrange and conduct the registration of persons qualified to vote. Prepare them, maintain, and revise the register. Yeah, that is easy. INEC is revising register now, and I think they have identified that there are some, scrupulous introductions to the register. So that is, then monitor political campaigns. I mentioned it. Recently, people were concerned that some parties have started campaigning. Parties will deny that they have not started. But go to Section 94 of the Electoral Act as amended. It specifies, I think, a fine for one aspect of it of about 500,000. So INEC also needs to relate with the National Assembly. But who are those in the National Assembly? Are they not politicians? You see, and to promote knowledge of sound democratic election processes. So INEC also has this education aspect, and of course, if we come to that point as a country, to conduct referendum. But people just focus on elections. And like I've said, you see, the politicians are desperate. In fact, it's as if in Nigeria, if you are not desperate, you don't join politics. I just gave us a very clinical case study.
Yeah.
Look at what is going on in Rivers State. Wike is not INEC, and Wike is saying that Fubara will not return for second time. Wike is not INEC. Wike has established a Rainbow Coalition in Rivers State, claiming that there are no political parties in Rivers State, that all the parties will work. These are issues. We
But
need
Mr.
to
Jide,
understand.
with this one, I feel like it's the godfatherism that has been happening for a long time, because oftentimes you see that when a governor is going, he wants to put his person. We saw it happen in Kogi as well, so let's also look at that angle. It's what has been going on for a while.
Yes, godfatherism is global. But if you monitor the recent American general election, by public opinion, a person like Donald Trump was not supposed to return to the White House. But the institution had to allow the flow. That's the point we are making. I said one of the assignments of INEC is to monitor the organization and operation of the political parties. Yes, you may come out to say that it's their family affairs, but those statements, the conduct of the political parties, these are issues. And that's why I do not envy him at all, but I wish him the best. Because don't let us isolate the fact that the politicians are desperate. And some Nigerians are still of the perception that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So there are several issues.
Mr. Logun, the politicians are desperate. We know it's not all about INEC. Mr. Oshifora, just to be a kind of devil's advocate, how do you think INEC can fix two problems? One, there's the issue of the IT infrastructure necessary, to deliver, and I'm also referring to the IT infrastructure for telecommunications to ensure that all areas are well covered in a way that there'll be no need for manual collation, because we cannot deny the fact that we have less than 65% coverage, data coverage in the whole country. That's one. The second one, it's on the issue of cybersecurity. INEC had 4 servers, and we knew what happened in 2023. Immediately they started trying to release the results, and the servers got corrupted one way or the other. And we know the current prevailing problem with cybersecurity globally. So how do we ensure that once we adopt all these new technology we're all talking about, these INEC servers will not be corrupted, even by voters themselves, by our own people who are determined to hack into it? And how do we solve the problem of blind spots areas where there are no telephone or data coverage?
I doubt if there are areas where there are no coverage.
Data coverage?
Yes.
Even if there's data coverage, there's no digital equity everywhere. Not everybody has access.
Let me give you a very good example. Once you get to, do you know Ogunwashun River Basin Authority on the way to Igbora, on the Sokoto, Lagos, Sokoto, that's under Abeokuta. There is no data coverage from that place up to the turning to Igbora, and you are looking at about 62 villages in there. Imologe there, Obete, and all those areas. No single data coverage.
I know.
And that's very close to Lagos.
I never argue with Mr. Show.
No, I don't know. So he's raised 2 points. There's the cyber security issue, which is a massive issue. In fact, when we were talking about technology earlier, I was going to say that technology in itself is not absolute. It has its own downside as well, which is a major threat is the issue of the cyber security thing. Now, but one of the things I've also realized is that cyber security is not just an issue for institutions like INEC. Even regular offices have attempts of hacking almost on a daily and all that. And what they do, what most companies, what most institutions do, is to reinforce and find some way around it where you keep reinforcing, because these hackers will come.
Firewalls.
Yeah, all these things are always there. Now, but you have to be some steps ahead of these persons. And an institution like INEC definitely will have to factor that in. Yeah. Because you don't want a situation where your system is corrupted or the entire system is hacked and then INEC is literally handicapped. Yeah. Now, so with that, I think and I know that INEC has measures in place for that. And that was one of the reasons why we had the issues at the last election.
2023.
Yeah, the 2023 election. So, and I know for certain that going forward, they put in place measures and all that. That's one part. Now, then the second issue that you raise is the issue of data coverage. It's also something that is in the works by them. Now, so in as much as that is happening in some minute areas, maybe not minute, but significantly minute, let me just put it like that. What they have to do is that they will have to resort to the manual collation. Because you can't say because there's no technology here, you shut them out. And like with the distance, Mr. Shomi just mentioned now that it's a large portion of that.
Of course.
And then there
Yeah.
is not just presidential now. You know, for elections, governorship and all that, that's a massive coverage.
Yeah.
You have to go back to the manual thing and also seek improvement. That's why I said that they have to keep coming up with things that can ensure that they improve on the
Mr.
previous
Shifora,
ones.
a very beautiful place to leave the conversation. Also, Mr. Jide, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. Thank you so much. I feel like at this point we expect the very best from INEC. Nigerians expect a very credible election from INEC. So, Professor Josh Amopita, it's up to you, to make sure that you set the ball rolling and you put it good for Nigerians to see that we can actually have a good and fair elections in Nigeria. Well, still on TVC Breakfast, from power struggles to declining influence, we'll examine the factors limiting the PDP's progress in Nigeria's political landscape. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.